International Trade Focus is brought to you by GOIL and Agricultural Development Bank.
Coming up on International Trade Focus,
we shall take a look at the bulk oil storage and transportation company BOST and the institution's role in ensuring petroleum product availability in Ghana.
The availability and storage of petroleum products is very crucial to the economic growth of every country. And here in Ghana, the bulk oil storage and transportation company BOST has the mandate to ensure that Ghana always has enough petroleum products to power our industrial and other important sectors of the economy. On today's edition of International Trade Focus, we shall focus on BOST and how it's pursuing its mandate. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Good Energy, ADB, Truly, Agric and more, Public Elegance and Pediasi Valley Resort. My name is Anna Spio. This episode promises to be educative. Don't go away. Stay tuned for our focal point.
The crucial role that strategic storage of petroleum products in the right quantities is supposed to play in the energy security of a country is becoming increasingly important by the day. The maintenance of a strategic petroleum reserve, experts say, is an important national security tool that combats disruptions in the oil markets. The reserve is intended to be an insurance policy against a severe oil supply disruption that almost always results in severe economic disruptions. In recent times, the COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with the Russian-Ukraine conflict, has resulted in a historic global petroleum product supply shortfall. Here in Ghana, the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited, BOST, was established. One of its mandates is to keep strategic reserve stocks for Ghana. On our focal point segment this week, we want to take a critical look at the state of BOST, its capacity, and whether or not the institution is in the position to carry out this crucial mandate that will ensure petroleum products availability and even price stability on the local market. Since its incorporation in 1993 by the government of Ghana, BOST, like many other energy sector companies, has received its fair share of operational and financial challenges in its quest to ensure that Ghana always has enough petroleum products in storage at strategic locations spread around the country. Apart from the establishment of depots in the Accra Plains, Akosombo, Mamiwata, Bolgatanga and Bupe for strategic storage purposes, BOST also built 400-kilometer pipelines and acquired 4 barges for the transportation of products on both land and water. It's important to note that the petroleum business is not cheap. For a developing country like Ghana, do we really have the financial muscle to carry out this task diligently? In the last 11 years, preceding the year 2021, BOST recorded back-to-back losses until a remarkable turnaround in 2021 when it recorded over 160 million cedis profit after tax. Before then, BOST was saddled with more than $600 million worth of trade liabilities in the form of petroleum products it had purchased from suppliers but had not been able to pay back. Aside the debt, BOST had also taken bank guarantees from local banks that had not been paid for. In addition to these, the company owed some bulk oil distribution companies to the tune of $37 million, arising from product losses and missing products from the company's depots, which were entrusted into their custody. However, with strong determination, BOST is remarkably turning around its financial fortunes by increasing its internal generated funds. Perhaps the most remarkable turnaround performance that has excited industry players in the oil industry about BOST is that within the shortest possible time, BOST has been able to mobilize and settle a huge chunk of the debt it was owing international suppliers. In addition to these, BOST has also brought back 12 out of its 15 storage tanks, revamped its transmission pipelines, and rehabilitated its tugboats and barges, which has significantly improved their revenue performance. Petroleum sector industry players are optimistic that BOST will do more to improve upon its recent performance and continue to work towards better operational efficiency in order to execute its core mandate.
A warm welcome back. This is International Trade Focus, and this is our Index segment. On our Index segment this week, we're having a conversation with Managing Director of BOST, Mr. Edwin Provençal. He's telling us the strategic role that BOST plays to ensure that petroleum products are available in the country. Right, so Mr. Edwin Alfred Ni Obodai Provençal is the Managing Director of BOST and our guest for today. We're going to take a look at BOST and the role that it plays in ensuring that there's petroleum product availability in the country and even stability in the local or on the local markets. Thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
Right, so let's delve straight into today's topic. Now, if recent events has shown us anything, it has shown us that the importance of petroleum products reserves cannot be underestimated. So, BOST, you being the Managing Director of BOST, what would you say are some strategic measures that has been put in place to ensure that there is enough petroleum products on the Ghanaian market?
Before I answer that, I want to start from our mandate, what our mandate is, and then maybe how we have attempted to deliver our mandate. So BOST was set up in 1993. There was a couple of occurrences then that necessitated the government of the day to ensure that the petroleum security is really put in the hands of government, not anybody else. So BOST was set up in 1993, and there were three key mandates. The first one was to develop and maintain a national network of infrastructure, storage, transportation and distribution infrastructure to enable petroleum distribution across the length and breadth of this country. So on that one, we have about 51 tanks with a volume of almost 450,000 cubic meters, equivalent to 325,000 thereabouts metric tons. We have 364 kilometers of pipeline across the length and breadth of this country. We have some marine assets as well. We have 4 barges. We have a tugboat. We also have a floating dock. We use the marine assets on the Akosombo route. We have 6 depots across the length and breadth of the country, from Tema to Mami Water in Esojaman, and then Akosombo, and then Buipe up north, and then Sabelugu, which is our booster station, and then Bolga, which is the export depot. We also have another one in Kumasi. So we have 6 depots, and in terms of our infrastructure to help us carry out the first mandate, that is what we have. And the second mandate is to be able to provide strategic reserves for the country. That would last a minimum of 6 weeks, so that if something happens in this country, we know that internally we have about 6 weeks of reserve. BOST has 6 weeks of reserve that can last until whatever situation is reversed. So that is that. On that one, I can say we haven't done too well because there used to be strategic reserve provides petroleum security for any nation, and it's like an insurance. And normally when you have an insurance, there is a premium that you have to pay to enjoy the benefits of the insurance. Unfortunately, that premium has been removed off the table in the price build up since 2006. So we used to have what we call a strategic reserve levy. And all citizens who consume petroleum products used to contribute a little premium to ensure that BOST can buy the reserve products and store. That will last 6 weeks. But since 2006, it's been off the table. So I keep telling all stakeholders that on paper, we don't have strategic reserves. But BOST, because we import fuel, we borrow money to import fuel, and we have to sell to pay back the fuel. So we have a semblance of it, but it is not proper strategic reserves. So we are not doing too well on that one because somebody has to pay for it, and we don't have the money to buy and pay for it. So that's a different conversation that needs to be had with the policymakers and stakeholders across the country as to how do we fund that insurance package for Ghana. The last one is to import petroleum products and then to ensure fuel security and also taking advantage of Ghana's opportunity in the sub-region to export to the landlocked countries. That is a very commercial-driven mandate, and we just started doing that in the recent past. We just started doing that since 2020. It was done a couple of years ago, but then the depot was out of service for a while, so we just brought it up, and then we've started doing the exports. Now, back to your question, what is BOST's role and how are we playing this role? Like I've said earlier, out of the 3 mandates, we're doing 2 the average, but we are not so happy about the second one, which is the strategic provision of strategic reserves, because it comes at a cost, a very huge cost. And one cannot just get up to go to any of your bankers and borrow money to buy fuel and store. Somebody has to pay for that money. Nobody's paying for that. So today, to mitigate that, in the whole country, outside BOST, there are some private terminals. There's fuel in those private terminals as well, including BOST. But for BOST alone, we can hold our fort for about 13 days. But when you add BOST to all the other private terminals, this country currently has about 45 to 50 days of strategic storage available in the country. So shortage is not imminent.
Right. So based on what you just said, what would you say is your market share at the moment?
The market has been liberalized. There are so many players that I think we are hovering about 18 to 19%. Thereabout, yes.
And so would you say with the 18 to 19% roughly that you have, you sort of have an influence on price stability?
The potential is there. Let me paint this picture for you. So imagine TOR, which is a state-owned entity. Imagine TOR is working at full capacity. BOST will be one of the biggest off-takers. So I will buy from TOR in cities. BOST, once my tanks are full, it means that BOST can sell the products to all the BDCs in this country, including GOIL, which is one of the biggest OMCs. So between TOR, BOST, and GOIL, the total market share will be so significant that we can decide not to be too bullish on profits. And once the significant market player is the one determining the price, we can drive the prices down at the pump. So that potential is available, it's there. To actualize that potential needs some serious investments in TOR, make it operationally efficient. And once it becomes operationally efficient, BOST and GOIL, who will be one of the biggest off-takers, can offtake these locally refined products, that means that the transportation cost in the price build-up will go down because we don't need to bring it all the way from Europe. Once we do that, then we can help provide the comfort the consumers need. So it is a must, and there are no excuses for TOR not to be working efficiently in our national interest.
So you touched on something briefly that caught my attention, re-export of petroleum products. Now, like over the years, we've been talking about import substitution, exporting more in order to cushion our local economy. So this is of interest to us. First of all, explain the re-export policy. So we'll talk about the re-export policy, where you are at the moment and the challenges that you're facing. So, but first of all, let's talk about the re-export policy and what it is.
Okay, I have not really cited any re-export policy yet, but countries that have deliberately put in place a strategy for re-export to take advantage of re-exports have benefited tremendously. Singapore is such a country. Now, Singapore, total trade in Singapore is about $1.2 trillion. Oil re-export alone in Singapore is 40 billion US dollars. So the potential is huge. Now, even if you look at Singapore, you can see that Singapore does not have a lot of landlocked countries around it because there are other countries who also can be accessed directly by the sea. But Singapore has positioned itself so well that a lot of re-exports go through Singapore before it gets to the other countries. Now, Ghana is in a very unique place where we have Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, who are nowhere near the Atlantic Ocean. So I think that it is a huge opportunity for us as a country to have the policy you are talking about so that we can strategically develop the re-export business. Not only, we see the trucks from Mali, Burkina, etc., coming to Accra, coming to pick all sorts of produce, including food, whatever, oil, whatever, drive all the way to their countries. But I think as a country, we haven't really put in place a re-export policy to take
So at the moment,
advantage
we've
of
not
this.
started anything like that,
At the moment,
not even informally.
At the moment, we have a trading policy
Right.
for re-exports.
Right.
And what we are doing is that we've identified where the demand is. The demand between Burkina Faso and Mali alone, it's 970 million US dollars. That's how much petroleum products they import on an annual basis. In 2020, we did about 62 million US dollars worth of export as a country, Ghana as a country. That's equivalent to about 6%. It's nothing. So that shows you that we haven't strategically positioned ourselves to be the re-exporter of choice to these countries. This is an opportunity for BOST because BOST is the only entity that has an export facility in the north, Bolga. And so that was the key reason why we brought our pipeline back on stream between Buipe and Bolga. And also we brought the depot that was offline, we brought it back on stream so that we can start re-exporting. And I'm happy to let you know that with the support of the National Petroleum Authority, we have started the re-exports. There are some challenges, though. I'm sure we'll go into that later. But now that we've started the re-exports, there is a huge potential, to take advantage. Imagine we're doing about 30 to 40% of the $900 million. That is almost $400 million coming to Ghana on re-export. Look at the pressure the pressure on us, CD to dollar, the forex pressure will be down, because when it comes to petroleum products, these guys pay in dollars. And so we would not necessarily need to find a lot of dollars, CDs to go and change to dollars when we can get the dollars directly from these guys. So the opportunity is huge. And I think that maybe through this your medium, the stakeholders would deliberate. We need to be intentional about this, because there is a huge opportunity for re-export of petroleum products.
Right, and that was Mr. Edwin Provençal, Managing Director, BOST, talking about BOST and the role that it plays in petroleum product availability in the country. International Trade Focus continues after this break. Don't go away. Right, if you just tuned in, we are having a conversation with the Managing Director of BOST, Mr. Edwin Provençal. We're taking a look at BOST and its contribution to petroleum product availability in the country. Right, there's a huge opportunity in there, but let's also take a look at some of the bottlenecks, the challenges that will likely arise from a venture like this.
Yes, so in trade, there are what we called, when you talk about challenges, they come in form of barriers to trade. And there are two main barriers to trade. There's a tariff barrier, which is physical. Maybe government doesn't want you to bring in tomatoes, so they increase the tax on tomatoes. So that's the tariff barriers. And there are non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers are like things you don't see, like how long it takes for you to process a document, how long it, in terms of, do you have to pay money before your things are shipped? These are all non-tariff barriers. At the borders, what happens at the borders? They are all non-tariff barriers, but they affect trade, and they increase the trade cost. So yes, I would say that our trade journey, re-export journey, hasn't been too smooth. And one of the reasons is the fear of dumping, which is a very legitimate fear by the National Petroleum Authority. Now, in the bid to curb the dumping, our trade protocols for export, re-export of oil, is not aligned to the sub-region. And so it sometimes acts as a non-tariff barrier. And that is our biggest challenge. And sometimes we can go for 3, 4, 5, 6 months without trading because of that non-tariff barrier. And what happens then is that trade volumes that needs to come to Ghana is steered away from Ghana to our competitor countries like Togo, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, where it takes them within 48 hours to come in and go out. In Ghana, it takes close to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before a truck comes in to go out, because of the protocols that are in place. Having said that, we have engaged the National Petroleum Authority. We know they are working at harmonizing the trade protocols between Ghana and the sub-region. And hopefully, they promised us that hopefully by October, they would have changed some of the procedures to ensure that they will put in place some trade facilitation measures by changing the procedures to ensure that trade will be enhanced. So we can't wait. We're looking forward to that. But that is the major barrier. In a bid to protect our tax revenues through dumping, we create another problem where trade doesn't happen at all.
So this also brings my mind to the Continental Free Trade Agreement or area. Now, in your vision statements indicates that BOST seeks to be the #1 fuel and logistics business in West Africa. So now trading under AFCFTA has commenced. So the market has broadened, as we've been talking about. So now how is BOST going to position itself strategically to ensure that it does not become the #1 fuel and logistics business in West Africa alone, but on the continent as well?
I remember the last strategy session at the Peninsula. There was a huge debate about our vision statement, whether we should do Ghana first or West Africa first or Africa second. So we've had that debate.
Yeah.
But like you said, a vision statement is a vision statement. I mean, it's a 2024 vision statement. But I'm sure you and I agree that before you get to even West Africa, you need to conquer Ghana. So we are working around the clock to make sure that we become a world-class organization first before you can think about competing internationally. So the West Africa, we think it is still relevant because before you go internationally, you need to get your house in order. There are certain things we're doing now that will get our house in order. And then once we do that and we conquer West Africa, then we will be positioned for Africa. So we don't want to just have a vision statement that is not achievable. We're going to break it down into bits and pieces so that we achieve. As we achieve, then we broaden. So I'm aligned with your question. It will definitely will get there, but in the short to medium term, it is Ghana and West Africa. Now, how are we going to take advantage of the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement? This is one of the biggest things to have ever happened on our continent, and I'm happy our president Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo spearheaded this, and then the headquarters is situated in Ghana. Fortunately or unfortunately, certain things need to happen before we can take advantage of that opportunity. Some of them I talked about, not only in the oil and gas sector. There are other non-tariff barriers in other sectors. They need to be identified and removed. Right. There are other things we need to do. So, for example, if you look on the West Coast, Ghana produces yam, cassava, so many things. Nigeria produces the same thing. That means that we cannot trade, Ghana can't trade between Nigeria on cassava and yam. However, when we have industries in Ghana that are adding value to the cassava and yam, using it to do different things, then we can trade with Nigeria, because then we will not be selling the raw cassava to Nigeria. Nigeria has the same thing, but we would have developed a certain product in Ghana out of cassava or out of yam or out of plantain that tastes so nice that the Nigerians love it, and that would enhance the trade. So there are lots of things we have to do, because in West Africa we are very common. Our tastes are common. What we grow, what we our endowments in West Africa are alike. So we need to have a strategy to develop products out of our endowments that will meet the tastes and demand of our sister countries. Then you will see a lot of trade happening. But the re-export of oil is a no-brainer. Once we align to the protocols and have a strategic intent to ensure that we take about 50% of the volumes of those two countries, I think we would be taking a huge advantage of this brilliant initiative our president has championed.
So away from the continental free trade area, one issue that has also become very topical is the transition to green fuel or energy and climate change. What is your take on that? Simply put, what is your take on that?
That's a very tricky question. Okay, so so transition means that moving away from one energy source to another energy source. It's not going to happen in the next 100 years, especially for developing countries. It won't happen. We may have semblances of, and it won't happen for some reasons. I mean, affordability is one of it. Until we have very commercial, renewable energies that we can transition to, it won't happen at the pace we envisage it to happen. What I think will happen will be a gradual evolution from one energy source to cleaner energies. Because as we speak today, there is no energy source on this planet that is cheap, plentiful, and reliable, apart from fossil fuel. There's no energy source that can compete with it. The ones that are available are also not affordable. They are not commercially affordable. But I believe strongly that we all agree on the fact that we need to protect the environment for the future. So I am all for climate action. The route to doing that is what I have a different opinion on. Because there's no energy source that can compete today with fossil fuel, no energy source that can compete today with fossil fuel, I think that rather our attention should be towards how do we mitigate the destructive effects of fossil fuel. And that, I think, can be done through technology, because today as we speak, there are technologies that capture the greenhouse gases at source. They are not commercially available, but I think over time, when science goes into it, R&D goes into it, it will be possible that our power plants, while burning the gas, whatever effluents that are emitted can be captured at source. And I think that should be Africa's strategy and position, to protect the climate whilst planting a lot of trees as well, to ensure that the net zero target by 2050 is achieved. But I doubt that fossil fuel will be displaced completely. So I don't think it is transition. It's going to be a gradual evolution, and we need these new technologies like carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Those technologies, but I don't think we'll have commercial hydrogen, commercial stuff, green hydrogen, pink hydrogen to transition to.
Right.
So that's my opinion.
Right, and that was Mr. Edwin Provençal, Managing Director of BOST, speaking about BOST and the role that it plays in petroleum product availability in the country. International Trade Focus continues after this break. Don't go away.